Jeffrey Epstein was not a president. He was not a king. He was not the head of any country. And yet, for decades, he moved freely among billionaires, former U.S. presidents, royalty, hedge fund managers, and some of the most powerful people on Earth. He flew on private jets with world leaders. He hosted royalty on private islands. He advised men who controlled billions of dollars. And behind all of that wealth and power, there was something far darker, something hidden for years. This is not a story about rumors or internet theories. This is a story built from court records, survivor testimony, flight logs, and documented facts. This is the story of Jeffrey Epstein, and how money and power allowed him to escape justice for most of his life. Before we go deeper, if you value long-form investigative stories like this, quietly subscribe to the channel. These stories matter, and they take time to tell properly. Jeffrey Edward Epstein was born on January 20th, 1953, in Brooklyn, New York. He did not come from wealth. His father worked for the New York City Parks Department. His mother was a school aide. They lived a normal middle-class life near Coney Island. As a child, Epstein was known to be intelligent, especially in math and science. Teachers noticed he learned quickly, but there was something else as well. He was observant, confident, and learned early how to talk his way into situations. There was nothing criminal in his childhood, nothing that suggested what he would later become. But what Epstein learned very early was how people with power think, and how much they trust those who sound confident. Epstein attended local schools and later enrolled briefly at Cooper Union, then New York University. This is an important detail. He never completed a college degree, no graduation, no finance qualification, no elite academic background. Yet within a few years, Epstein would be advising some of the richest individuals in the world. That rise did not happen because of education. It happened because of access. The Dalton School. In the mid-1970s, Epstein was hired as a math and physics teacher at the Dalton School in Manhattan. Dalton was not an ordinary school. It educated the children of Wall Street executives, media owners, political insiders. Epstein had no teaching license, but he was confident, articulate, and impressed the right people. While teaching students, he quietly observed their parents. He learned how wealthy families spoke, how they dressed, what they valued, and most importantly, how much they trusted people who sounded intelligent. In 1976, Epstein was dismissed from Dalton. The official reasons were never fully explained. But by then, Epstein had already gained something far more valuable than a teaching job. He had connections. Wall Street. Shortly after leaving Dalton, Epstein entered the world of finance. He joined Bear Stearns, one of the most powerful investment banks on Wall Street at the time. Again, no degree, no formal training. But Epstein knew how to talk, he knew how to impress, and he knew how to make himself useful. At Bear Stearns, he learned how money moves through offshore accounts, trusts, and tax shelters. He learned how the ultra-rich protect their wealth. Epstein was eventually fired from Bear Stearns due to internal issues. But instead of disappearing, he moved forward. The mysterious money. By the late 1980s and 1990s, Epstein presented himself as a private financial advisor. He claimed he only worked with clients worth over $1 billion. Here is where the mystery begins. To this day, there is no clear public explanation for how Epstein made most of his money. There are no major hedge fund records, no documented investment success, no transparent business empire. Yet Epstein owned a massive mansion in Manhattan, a luxury estate in Palm Beach, a ranch in New Mexico, a residence in Paris, and a private island in the Caribbean called Little St. James. He owned private jets, he lived with unlimited cash, and he surrounded himself with power. Part 2: Power, Networks, and Crimes. Epstein didn't just collect wealth, he collected people. Over the years, he was photographed and documented with former U.S. presidents, members of the British royal family, billionaires, hedge fund managers, scientists, and academics. It's important to say this clearly. Being photographed with Epstein does not automatically mean criminal involvement. But what is undeniable is this: associate with him. That alone raises serious questions about how power works. Epstein owned private aircraft. Flight logs later released by courts showed repeated trips involving influential figures. The jets gained a disturbing nickname among investigators. They were called the Lolita Express. Young girls traveled without guardians. Trips went to private islands and secluded properties. Trips went to private islands and secluded properties. This was not accidental. The abuse. For years, Epstein recruited underage girls, some as young as 14. The method was simple and calculated. Girls were offered money for massages, then pressured into sexual acts, then encouraged to bring other girls. This created a cycle of abuse that spread quietly. The crimes took place in Florida, New York, New Mexico, the Caribbean, all while Epstein lived openly among the elite. The 2008 deal. In 2005, police in Palm Beach began investigating Epstein after multiple victims came forward. Detectives built a strong case. Dozens of girls gave statements. Then something happened behind closed doors. Epstein received a secret plea deal. The deal allowed him to avoid federal charges, serve minimal jail time, leave jail daily for work release. Most shocking of all, the deal included protections for potential co-conspirators. Legal experts later called it one of the most controversial plea deals in U.S. history. Epstein walked free. Returned to power. After his release, Epstein should have been finished. Instead, he returned to elite society. He attended private dinners. He met with scientists. He continued traveling. Money, influence, and silence protected him. The end, and the silence. In July 2019, Epstein was arrested again, this time on federal charges of sex trafficking. This case was different. There would be no deal. A month later, on August 10, 2019, Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his jail cell. The official ruling was suicide. Multiple security failures occurred that night, and with Epstein's death, many answers died with him. Closing. Human calm. This story is not about gossip. It is not about shock. It is about what happens when wealth and power operate without accountability. Jeffrey Epstein is gone, but the system that protected him still exists. If you believe stories like this deserve to be told properly, subscribe quietly and stay with the channel. More truth takes time. Jeffrey Epstein, power, money, and silence. His success did not come from intelligence alone. It came from understanding people, fear, and power. Epstein knew something most people never fully realize. In elite circles, reputation matters more than truth, and silence is often rewarded. The billionaires and the inner circle. Jeffrey Epstein did not build his reputation among ordinary people. He focused on the ultra-wealthy, men whose money gave them privacy, influence, and distance from consequences. Over the years, Epstein was repeatedly seen with some of the richest individuals on the planet, men whose names shape global business, technology, and politics. One of those names was Bill Gates. Bill Gates, the co-founder of Microsoft and one of the world's most famous billionaires, met Jeffrey Epstein multiple times after Epstein's 2008 conviction. This fact is not speculation. It has been confirmed through meetings, emails, and later acknowledged publicly. According to reports, Epstein positioned himself as a connector, someone who could bring together wealthy donors, scientists, and institutions. Gates later stated that meeting Epstein was a mistake, and that the association brought him regret. There is no evidence that Bill Gates was involved in Epstein's crimes. But the association itself raised serious concerns, because Epstein was already a convicted sex offender, and yet doors were still open to him. Why this mattered? Epstein understood something important. Wealthy people often operate in closed worlds. They rely on introductions. They trust familiar faces. They assume someone else has already done the background checks. Epstein exploited that trust. By attaching himself to respected billionaires, philanthropists, and intellectuals, he gained legitimacy. If someone questioned him, he had an answer. He could point to his connections. And the questions stopped. Other billionaire connections. Epstein was also associated at different times with hedge fund managers, media tycoons, tech investors, international financiers. Some attended dinners, some exchanged emails, some traveled. Again, it must be said clearly. Association does not equal guilt, but association does reveal something important about access. Epstein was not operating on the margins of society. He was welcomed into rooms where decisions affecting millions of people were made. Jeffrey Epstein is dead. No trial ever revealed everything he knew. No courtroom ever forced full accountability. But silence is not the same as resolution. Power still needs scrutiny. Wealth still needs limits. And truth still needs people willing to listen. If you value careful, serious storytelling, the kind that doesn't rush, exaggerate, or sensationalize, stay subscribed. Stories like this are not easy to tell, but they matter. This was not just the story of Jeffrey Epstein. It was the story of what happens when power goes unchecked and silence becomes protection.